Hello, everyone. My name is KJ, and today is my spoiler review for the new show on Netflix for episode 4. Spoiler review for Netflix's The Wonderfools. So, if you have not seen this show, please pause this. And before you go, could you do one thing for me? Could you hit the thumbs up button, aka the like button? That would help my YouTube channel out, and I appreciate that. And thank you guys in advance. Let me know what you think about it in the comment below for episode 4 of The Wonderfuls. So, before I start this spoiler review, I want y'all to check out this skit. And after this skit's over, I'm going to do a deep dive for episode 4 of The Wonderfuls. So, enjoy this skit. What is my brother doing? Huh. What? Welcome to Mario's ASMR. Princess Peach, you're so cool. Dun, 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 dun. This is my favorite Mario game for the Switch. Yes. Mamma mia. Let's open the kit. What are you looking at? You know what? I think I'm gonna go visit Princess Daisy. Goodbye. This episode starts off with a little girl named Juron who is receiving a hearing aid from Dr. Ha Wando before the explosion, before the incident. And just to give it a background for some of the trios who follow him and actually call him father. And we're seeing, it's interesting too. Like this first scene is like peaceful, and we're seeing the perspective viewpoint of Juron and of her viewpoint of him, because again, like he might have manipulated him, groomed him, gaslight him, whatever you want to call it. And so this right now seems very, very safe, very common, very like maybe nobody's really understanding this doctor, but this is perspective viewpoint from her eyes. Number one, a child's view who grew up around him, and they show back the explosion, and the doctor told you know Paula, Jubran, Oran to run away, hide, lay low from the government, the police, until they reunite after he gets out of prison, basically. And so in this episode, we see the four reunited, and the whole main goal now is to restart the what they call basically create that laboratory again and start this new project. And their whole point of is he's Dr. Hawando is ordering them to go and search for the child of eternity, and she's the key point of rebooting this project to create kids with supernatural powers, basically. And then the next scene is the current time as Cheney, and we see Chinese grandma meet with Dr. Hawando, and she is against him and the whole idea. But the doctor again needs it. So he tries to ask her where is it at, and his trio does everything he can to, get things out of her. But Chinese grandma, she just ain't biting it. And she says that that child that he's looking for is dead, but I think it's Cheney. I think Cheney is that child. That's what I believe. I think that's who it is. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong. And so what they have to do now is we get a different narration. It's a different viewpoint as we get a flashback scene as Lee is narrating how he triggered the fire explosion while he was sleeping because he's having a nightmare about the time how he Dr. Hawandu brought this little boy died and he came back to life and he kept doing it over and over again and it was scaring this little boy. So Lee, and I believe it is Pala. I think it's him, his childhood best friend, Lee's childhood best friend in this. I think what they're explaining is like he kept dying and coming back to life, and that doctor, crazy doctor, to be honest, was doing it on purpose. So Lee caused that first explosion because he was just trying to save his friend. And what's interesting, we see Ja Ron's viewpoint because she got a hearing, so she can hear, and it brought happy emotionals to it. And these three people look up to this doctor while Lee is like against him, thinks he's a monster, and maybe showing the actual reality of how he actually treated all those little kids with no remorse, not really showing any kindness because he was trying to unlock the key to have supernatural powers and stuff and change the world, and he wasn't afraid to you know sacrifice a few children. And so that's where the viewpoints are changed, and I like that. I really liked how the first scene, again, we saw a little girl who just got her first hearing aid, and it's all positive. And then we see in Lee's version, the Juang, I should say, but um he saw things differently when he was little. Lee did, and I think that's the most important thing out of this. We're seeing the big difference between different perspectives, viewpoints. Even Chinese grandma, she is so against Dr. Hawando, and she sees the BS that he's trying to spew. And I believe Cheney is that child that they're looking for. And yeah, she technically did die, but she came back to life in the second episode or first episode. Second episode, had to be the second episode. And so, it technically she wasn't lying, but she was lying. But you know, her grandma's got to protect her. Now, what's interesting too, there's Cheney, and this is Cheney at her best. And I always find this hilarious. She's just outside, and she's trying to go to a place she's never been to, which is called. She wants to go to the Northern Lights. She wants to teleport there, and then we see Doctor Hawando and his trio driving by her, and he's like, the guy was like, "Yo, that's Lee's friend," and he's like, "Go capture her, collect her, basically." But when he tries to, he gets ready to do his little ability where he just smashes anybody. You know, she teleports, but she does go to a Northern Lights, but it's not the actual Northern Lights or regions. She goes to a bar, a karaoke bar, and freaks her out. And I thought that was just funny because it's just Cheney just being and goofy and stuff. She tries, she's dancing, she's just talking out loud without a care in the world. And I think that's like her best about her. But they explain within that scene too about the others. Like Juron, she can literally brainwash. And she brainwashed Chinese grandma for a good period of time. Horan, she can hallucinate. She has the power to hallucinate. When we see that too, when she tries to trap Chinese grandma again to, you know, get information out of her. And then Hola, he has the gravity ability, and that's what he kind of does. He can pick things up, smash it. He can crush things like a soda can type. And so he's got all those abilities. And again, that's the whole point. But what's interesting is it doesn't work on everybody, and we discover what it does not work on one particular character, which we'll talk about later. And so the next scene, again, they want to find the internal child so they can pretty much experiment on her. And we see like very difficult challenges, and we're seeing like the the three trio that Dr. Hawando has. There's like some bad side effects that's going on, and it's like killing them, and it explains a lot why they need, you know, it seems like this might be the actual original DNA genetics, if that's what I'm thinking. But then we get to the scene where Cheney brings Yuang and Robin to help volunteer and clean the streets up, and but she really wants Lee to train them to how to control their powers, but he prefers frustrate and distance. But he's trying to explain the situation because when we see there's a member of these salvation uh, cult leaders or followers from this church called the Church of Salvation arrive at the city hall, which immediately angers Lee. And this is where this trio gets together on the side, and Leah explains to them like, hey, if this church finds out about you guys' powers, you guys are in danger. People in your love you can never see again, and they'll be in danger. Like, and he explains like you can't train them. Like you, they just need to practice and figure out what makes their abilities kick in. And so he said, I'm gonna have to lock you in this room so you guys can figure it out, and also just keep them out of sight. And you know, we see another scene too where what I like too is the three Cheney, Kuang, and Robin. They're all trying to use their powers and stuff, and they just cannot focus. And they got to figure out what it is. Cheney, she with her powers is just teleporting. At first, she kind of got it right, and then she got the wrong idea. She thinks her heart has to start pumping and racing, but that's not always the case. When she was outside the first night, she was just chill, being goofy. But like, if she's in danger and something's like gonna attack her or something's being thrown at her, like a falling building or something, yeah, her abilities automatically kick in. Robin, he's just a guy that I think it's like the heat of the moment or adrenaline that gets him like the last minute in clutch, where his super strong abilities, he can pick up heavy things like kick in. Keon Hoon, he just sticks, but he does realize later in this episode as the actual detective goes out and finds them because thanks to Cheney's grandma, he realized, oh, when I lie, I start sticking, but when I tell the truth, I unstick. And so that's gonna be a very interesting episode. But he wants to learn this so he can like start making money and use this to make money off of his abilities. Because we see in this episode too where his daughter his CD player is broken, and the amount of yens that it cost, she'd be literally 60 years old before he could afford to buy a CD player. And by the time that happens, it'd be touchscreen cell phones and stuff like that. You know, he kind of has to hurry up. So he's doing this for his daughter and stuff, but he's just doing the wrong way intentionally. And so when we get back to Lee, Lee is getting trapped by that church, right? And this is where his former friend comes out and starts attacking everybody, and he murders these followers to this cult group that they created on purpose. And while that's going on too, Cheney's grandma realizes like the not Juran but Hao, she is using hallucination and brainwashing at the same time. But Chinese grandma's like, I've been living in hell for like 25 years. Like, you got nothing on me and stuff. So, but what I also I think too is that woman has a connection to Chinese grandma, and I think like she knows that Chinese grandma's telling the truth, and she's just heartbroken. Like she didn't take her in and stuff. So I just wonder, like, there's something personal because she is doubting a little bit of Dr. Hawando, and Duran. She's the only one who's gonna believe in this stuff because she just has like she really believes in this stuff and she trusts him, and but we're seeing one of them not, and so I think because she should could have killed Chinese grandma, but she didn't, and I thought that was very interesting. So I believe that maybe that they have a closer personal relationship than we imagine in the past, which they'll probably show in episode 5. Who knows? But that's what I got out of that. But after after all that happens, Lee's getting attacked, and then luckily Cheney like just teleports. And what's interesting is she has to know where she wants to go, but seeing Cheney just think about Lee, maybe too is just emotional. Like if she has an emotional connection towards somebody, she can teleport without actually know their the location. Or unless he kind of did say where he was going to be at, but I think too, like I think they like each other. I think they have feelings, like they like each other, and that's why she automatically just thinks of Lee, Juwang, and Lee is just somebody she likes. That's what I think. That's what I'm thinking on that because she sees it and then she gets him out, but it doesn't work. But she gets Robin teleports Robin in the mix, and this is we learn that Robin can handle this attack because she was saying the escape ghost, but she met escape goat, where this person like is like a soccer player goalie who can take like take the negative and protect others around them so they don't get the effect of the negativity, which should be the hits or attacks, is what she was referring to. Because Halho is attacking them and he can't get uh Robin into the clutch because he drops a big car or a big bus on him, but unfortunately, I can't believe Cheney got stabbed, but she teleported to the actual Northern Lights area in the cold, dead ass cold. And but Robin realizes like he picked up the bus and he threw it, and then he's not understanding, but that other guy's ability doesn't really affect him, and so now they left him between them, but like Cheney did die again, and this time it reveals like they transplanted the heart from the actual child of Eternity's heart into Cheney's heart. So technically, she's not the actual child, but she's the original child that actually had the heart to live and die forever, or to live forever, basically. But transported the heart into Chinese. And so when did they do this heart transplant? I don't even know because they never showed it. They just showed her waking up in the hospital. So, but we discovered on her chest was the scar. So they cut open her heart and put it in there. But who and why? But I believe when they go back to scenes where Dr. Hawando is back in the laboratory, we see this nurse or doctor, female doctor, and she's getting really worried and disagreeing what's going on as one of the experiments in this tank. is deforming and turning into like a fish, but it's actually dying. And then the old man who was homeless and got captured. I think he's got worms or some type of bug or sticks growing out his forearms and hands. And this woman doctor who's wearing a face mask, so we don't know what she's looking like, she's very concerned. So she might have done the heart transplant for Cheney the whole time. Who knows? That's what I'm thinking. But she does wake up and live, and Lee is shocked about that. And that's how this episode ended. But it there was funniness to it. I love uh Robin. He's the funniest one. Like when they're all trying to figure out how to practice using their powers, it was just so funny to see him get slapped, and he's just like he's just the goofiest one out of them. So is Cheney, but like I just love seeing Robin in this show. He's like my favorite character. Like I don't know why, but he's just the funniest one to me, and he's just fun to watch. And I think too is this I wouldn't say they put more action. I wouldn't say this was the most action packed, but this episode too that I like about this is they had a little bit more action to it. It's the same amount of pace from episode 1 through 4, this episode 4, but what they show is this one had a little, I would say a little bit extra of action. Like very intense, like seeing all those vehicles fall and seeing like the cult followers just get murdered off. It was just nuts. Like they wanted it, and then they trusted everybody. And it was so sad to see, but that's how it is when you have a cult like that. But I seen that, and the action to that again was really impactful. But we got to see everybody, the good guys, the heroes of this show, somewhat team up, and we're seeing people caring. There's that detective that Cheney's grandma always calls when she's worried about her granddaughter, and he came and saved Kuwang from falling from the ceiling, but he's trying not to tell him, but he has powers and stuff. And so everybody's out to get this girl, it seems like. And like now there's a lot of people who want to protect her. And so again, that's where a lot of the action, little bit extra action of fighting and explosions is happening. But I love the dramatic, and I love like there's characters that have more to them than they're showing, and it just you see more progressive of it, layers of these character growth in each of the next episode and stuff. But it's going to be interesting to see where Cheney's grandma actually was, and how much a part of this experiment at that laboratory, and what does she actually know, because she knows that Dr. Hawando is just some crazy fool. So it's gonna be picked up. But I also love too, like Lee has like a love triangle too with Cheney and this other girl who like we see her in these episodes, but we don't see her a lot. The only thing too I would say as well that I wouldn't say I didn't like about it, I think too that there's characters that were kind of forgettable in this, and a lot of them are from that city hall. But I think they play a big part because for one, there was some tragic inactions and deaths that happened on the city hall's account of time because they were cleaning up, all volunteers cleaning up messes and stuff. And so, where were they? Why I wish they had scenes for them to see their reaction and how they were going to handle this. That's my only thing I didn't like about that. Is this those were characters that I think from episode one felt like they were important characters to be paying attention to as a viewer, who's watching the show, but they weren't really used quite well in this episode. But that's my only nitpick about that. But the things I just said I liked about, I really liked it because there's some comedy to it, but they know when to be serious about things, and they have heartwhelming, uh, sadness, dramatic moments make that makes you tug your heart, make you laugh, make you cry, make you care about characters you want to think about. Or maybe some of these characters are not the quote unquote the bad guys, the villains. Maybe they're looking to find something, an answer, to find peace with some of the stuff they went through. They just feel misleading, misguided, you know. And I liked about this. They really put a lot into this effort. So if I had to give this a 1 out of 10, this is definitely an 8.5. Really good episode. And I loved everything about it. And watching these characters grow was really the fun part. And again, this thing is, I would never expect this to be one of my favorite shows of 2026. I didn't think put this on my bingo card of series to like for this year, but this is definitely going to be at least in my top 10, maybe top 5 if nothing else can top this for this year of 2026. It's a really good show. Out of 4 episodes, this is a banger. Loved everything about it, and man, there's so much going on, but I was so sad. I was nervous about Cheney being dead. I didn't know she. I was like, no, don't kill her off, but it would make sense. It would make sense, like maybe because I was like, who's the star of this? Maybe Lee was, but Cheney is the star of this show. So I'm glad that she is alive in this. But that is my spoiler review, all. Thank you guys so much, guys. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Subscribe. Hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys and peace.